let's get started. Hi, everybody. I'm Cameron Parker. I'm a program manager on the Lync client team. Good.
And I'm Ankit Tandon. I'm also a program manager on the Lync client team.
So today we're going to talk about conferencing with Lync, with the Lync server, with the Lync client, how to configure and use the Lync client in different ways. We'll learn some details about the Lync client that you may not know. Let's dive right in. In terms of agenda, we'll go over a roadmap for conferencing, where we've been, where we're going. We'll talk about the web conferencing experience, show a demo of that. We'll talk about audio and video and collaboration drill downs around bandwidth requirements, flows. We'll talk a little bit about manageability and troubleshooting as well. So when you run into issues, how do you troubleshoot those and detect where those issues are occurring? And what do we want you to take away today? One, we are going to do a deeper look at audio, video, and web conferencing workloads and how those work. You'll learn a lot about, I think, the conferencing architecture, the call flows that happen with the Lync client to the server, and some troubleshooting details. And we'll also learn at the end a little bit about differences between Lync on-premise and Lync online. Today, Lync online is in public beta form, and it will move to general availability in June. And there are some differences between how Lync works with an on-premise deployment versus communicating with Lync online. So we'll go over some of those details as well. The roadmap. So we started out with Office Communications Server 2007 R2. There's a mouthful for you. It's a little bit more than Lync. In that time frame, a couple years ago, we had Communicator, which provided audio, video conferencing, and desktop sharing. Previous version before that was Communicator 2007, which didn't even have desktop sharing. And the live meeting client would communicate with on-premise servers as well. And the live meeting client supported AV conferencing, desktop and application sharing, PowerPoint presentations, whiteboard, polling, Q&A, full set of rich conferencing features to support a large scale of sizes of conferences as well. Last year when we shipped Lync 2010 server, last fall, Lync 2010, you'll see a lot of the features moved over to be supported in the Lync client. So with the Lync client now you get richer AV conferencing, you get desktop and application sharing, PowerPoint presentations, whiteboard, and polling as well. Live meeting is still will still work against a Lync server deployed on-premise. And it's primarily used during migration. We expect most customers will turn off live meeting within their corporations so that they don't have to manage two clients and support two clients. But it can still be used during migration period time. It can still be used for meetings that are still on the calendar. Those meetings will continue to work for as long as you want them to. The server support is going to be there in Lync 2010 server. As I said, Lync Online and Office 365 are going to be out in June, and public beta now. Different sign-in procedure for the online service, though. It uses an org ID, which is based on Live ID. It has audio conferencing, but through partners, specifically audio conferencing partners. You'll see the term ACP used frequently today. ACP is just short for audio conferencing partner. We'll talk through some of those details as well a little bit later. It's not a soft phone when you're in Lync Online, though. There is no sort of phone touchpad support in the client. It's purely audio conferencing is when you use the soft phone type features, dial in, dial out, those kinds of things are not there in Lync Online. However, it does still do VoIP, so if you have a headset, that'll work great in Lync Online. What else? Lync Online will go through more regular updates and improvements, though. Every cumulative update that goes out for the client will probably have more new features for Lync Online and or fix issues with Lync Online, but it is the same client. So any cumulative update that goes out for Lync client is usable against an on-premise deployment or an online deployment. They're the same client, works across both an on-prem and the service. And then live meeting, moving forward, is a separate service only. There's no live meeting connecting to O365, similar to the way you might think of live meeting connecting to on-premise. Live meeting service, however, is a different product that still exists, and that can be used for very large meetings. So, rich conferencing features. I'm not going to talk through every bullet on this slide. There's just a lot of information here. But really, this just means that, hey, we're doing all the basics. We have presence, IM, etc. We have rich voice and video support with PSTN audio for on-premise deployments. Has IVR built into it as well. Scalable voice and video, etc. You can do conference management. You can create very easily create new meetings, new conferences that are online. You can join with several different ways. You can join with the Lync client itself. You can join with the Lync web application, which is a browser-based solution, and we'll see a little bit of that later too. And then there's also something called the Lync attendee client, which is a free download, full-featured client to support joining in and participating in meetings, so primarily for your external attendees. Other nice thing about conference management is that there's a lobby support. That's new from previous versions from 2007 of Lync. The lobby provides a way for you to manage people entering into meetings without having to worry about who gets in. So if you invite somebody and they forward that invite on to somebody else, that person that's got forwarded to, by default anyways, is going to hit the lobby. And that's super important that the lobby is used and provides kind of a gateway to let people into the meeting. Around content, I talked a bit about these features already, so I'm just going to skip ahead. The main conferencing scenarios that we do support in Lync 2010, rich conference calls. This is on-premise or online with the partners, with the ACP partners. Rich conference calls just means, hey, we're a great audio conferencing solution out of the box. We can replace a PBX. We can replace an ACP if you have an ACP today. You can deploy Lync server on-premise with a PSTN gateway and have a complete audio conferencing solution that scales up quite well. Next scenario that we really worked on is working with people anywhere. With this, it's really about just starting an ad hoc conversation with somebody and being able to extend that to support some audio conferencing features like sharing your desktop quickly and easily with that person, getting work done, working with somebody else, and getting back to work afterwards. Effective team meetings is just the typical types of meetings we probably all run every week. These are just status meetings, working meetings, whatever, whiteboarding, brainstorming type sessions. That was another scenario that we really focused on. And finally, professional presentations, primarily focused on doing a presentation with a partner or a vendor or a customer where you really want a little bit of extra polish and want to be able to control the meeting experience thoroughly. And we'll break out to a demo here. Feel free also to ask questions if you like along the way. You can step up to one of the microphones. I believe there's 6 scattered throughout the room here. So if you have a question along the way, step up to a mic. We'll grab our attention and we'll let you ask a question along the way. We have some nice parting gifts for people that ask questions up here. 1 or 2 very nice ones and one kind of a gag gift actually too. So you never know what you're going to get. Let's start out with the demo here though. Looks like Lync is blinking for me here. OnKit right next to me here wants to start a video call. So I'm just going to say sure. And our laptops are muted as far as the speakers go, so we won't get any feedback scenarios here. And just like that, OnKit's sharing video with me that quickly. He extended an IM conversation very quickly and easily to a video call. I can also start my video, so I can share my video out with him quickly. And you can see my little shadow there in the corner. And pretty easy to start that out and just add video. And then if I want to work with him on something, I can very quickly just share out my desktop with him. And he can see my full screen now. I can switch over and show you that if you like. We'll actually leave it showing my screen for right now. You can see that OnKit has request and control up at the top of the screen here. It's a little bit chopped off on your monitors there, it looks like. But he's requesting control of my mouse and keyboard. So I'm going to allow him access to my mouse and keyboard. Walk away and let him move some things around, screw up my presentation. And if I want to, I can very quickly just hit Control-Alt-Space. I've just taken back control. I can also do that from the menu up above here to take back control. It's the very first menu item. I'm going to stop sharing there, and now we're done with our conversation. I'll go ahead and close that conversation out as well. And our conversation's done. Let's take a look at the next demo. You can see on my email here too now. The next demo is really about scheduling a meeting and walking through more of a scheduled meeting scenario where we might be having a weekly meeting, that kind of thing. All I have to do is go to my calendar. If I want this meeting to happen very quickly in the future, like right now, I can just click this new online meeting button right at the top of Outlook. If I want to schedule it at a particular time, I can do that as well. I'll schedule one for 4 o'clock here. Inside the calendar invite, I can provide a subject, test, meeting. Yeah, sorry, didn't see you there. Good, thank you. Can you bring up the mic there for him? Thanks.
Back to when you had the sharing. Can you record that sharing session? Like I know in live meeting you could, and I didn't see that option. So when you share your desktop, can you have the option on one side or the other to record all the things that have gone on?
Yes, absolutely. The question, I think everybody heard it, was can you record anything going on in the meeting or conversation? Yes, you can record any conversation. You can record just an IM conversation if you wish as well. That will record out to your local hard drive. If you add audio, that automatically gets recorded. The video also gets recorded. The screen sharing gets recorded. The PowerPoint presentation gets recorded. Everything shows up in that recording file. And a little aside on recording as well, that recording file, it's actually a bunch of files that sit on your hard drive. And when they're played back inside the browser in a Silverlight application. So you get some really rich playback with that style of recording. And you can turn on and off different pieces of the recording as well and quickly navigate to portions of it. It's pretty slick. You can also, though, when you do a recording, and there's a default to have this turned on, is convert the recording to a Windows media file afterwards. So you have one Windows media file that then you can publish to, say, a SharePoint 14 site with asset libraries that are built into SharePoint 14. You can publish that up to that site. The recording manager will actually auto-publish it if you set it up to that site. Send everybody a link and they can watch a Windows Media streamed version of your recording after the meeting. So it's a pretty slick way to allow people to watch your meeting afterwards if they couldn't attend. So good question, long answer. Another question here.
As a follow-up, can you stop all preventing the saving of so that you can't record it?
So you cannot record. You can disable recording. Yes, that can be disabled by administrators. Okay. And then also, when anybody in a meeting or conversation starts recording, everybody gets notified that recording has started. So for privacy reasons, you want to know whether or not that meeting is being recorded. And a bright yellow alert shows up in the client that tells you that recording has been started. And there's a permanent indicator as well, like a red light, I believe. Okay. Coming back to the scheduling scenario anyways, I will add OnKit to this meeting as well. And I'm not going to give it a location yet because I'm going to just turn it into an online meeting. Single click, I have an online meeting, it's ready to go now. I have my link for everybody to click. Super easy to click, super easy to see. I can copy and paste the full link here if I want to some other location and send it that way. One sec, I'll get you on the question there. The phone number information is here, as well as finding a local number, which takes me to a web page on the server, and then the conference ID to join through PSTN. I'm not going to send this one out, but I will look at my meeting options really quick as well before I get to you there. In meeting options, by default, you don't need to really change anything here. The defaults are pretty smart. They're set up such that you're going to allow people within your company to automatically enter the meeting. And not only that, but they're also going to be presenters. In a collaborative type of a scenario, you expect some trust from most of your coworkers that they're not going to do anything to disrupt your meeting too much. So your people within your company that you invite are presenters. They can immediately start sharing their desktop in a typical collaborative type of a meeting. They could start a whiteboard. All those features are available to them. Let's take a break for a question over there. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I want to ask a question if this can be customized, the join meeting in the background. This is much better than 2007. The Lync version of it is, but is that customizable so we can put our company logo on it and maybe do some other things? So
this invite here?
That's right. When we send it out to customers, it looks a little better.
There is, I believe you can customize, as an administrator, you can customize some of this template in pure text, but only for a single language, if I remember right. So if you do customize it, you can add a little bit there. I don't think you can add logos, though, or graphics to it. I'd have to double check that. Okay, good question, though. Back to meeting options really quick. Oops, I went and hit join online meeting. That's okay. I'll just switch back over to Outlook really quick here. Talking about the meeting options really quick as well. If I do want to change any of these settings, one checkbox allows me to change those settings. What this does on the back end is actually creates a different conference URL for the meeting, though. By default, all meetings that I schedule, whenever this checkbox is turned off, use my assigned conference meeting. That means that all meetings that I schedule are going to have the same URL. That also means I can take that URL, shove it on my business card, shove my that phone number, that conference ID right on my business card as well. All that is just my assigned meeting ID, and I can use that over and over again. I don't have to, though. If I want to change anything, I turn on this checkbox, and I'll get a new URL show up here. I'll just do that really quick just to show you. There, it just updated to a different URL here. If I turn that checkbox off, it should switch back to the Z something or other, which is my assigned conference ID. Actually, already had this meeting scheduled, so I'm not going to join that one, and we're actually already in it. Close that off. There it goes. We're awake now. In this case, actually, Ankit's waiting in the lobby. He's joined with the web application. I'm going to switch over so you can quickly take a look at that. You're on D? Okay,
Yes.
there we go. You want to talk about it a bit?
Cool. So I got Cameron's meeting invite, and Outlook reminded me that there's a meeting that's about to happen. So in the meeting reminder, I have a link to join this meeting online. And with one click, I'm in the meeting, and looks like there is a person waiting in the lobby to be admitted, and Cameron did that.
Where's Bill? Is he here?
So I'm in the meeting with one click. You did see that a browser window was launched in the background, and if I didn't have Lync installed, it would give me option to download the Lync attendee, as Cameron mentioned before, or I could use the Silverlight application and join the meeting in the web browser. And that Silverlight application is obviously supported on IE and Firefox. So now that I'm in the meeting, it's a scheduled meeting, so I could do interesting things with it. I can add video, just like we did in the previous meeting, with just one click. And Cameron, when he turns on his video, we could see him. Cameron can see me already. I can do the sharing like we did before. So Cameron shared his desktop with me before. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to upload a PowerPoint presentation in this meeting. So I will click a deck, check, and there you go. So this is a little new to Lync that didn't exist in Communicator 2007 R2. This Lync deck is actually getting uploaded to Data MCU, and that PowerPoint deck will be available to everyone to download as a handout. And if the deck is very big, it's going to pre-process the first 5 slides of the deck and create thumbnails so that you can go right ahead. So this deck was pretty large, actually, lots of images in there, but it's ready. And the best part is that Cameron has that deck available to him as well. So if he wants to present instead, he could take over control and present. So
I have a single button that I can click to take over as presenter. And for instance, if we wanted to hand the deck off back and forth in the middle of a presentation, now I'm in control of the deck. Then Ankit can show a separate feature.
Yeah, so right now Cameron is in control. I get that notification. I could take over as presenter. Or the best thing is that attendees can navigate through the deck on their own. You can bring up the thumbnail and click through the slides. And the best thing is when you're doing that, you see a yellow glow around the whole PowerPoint deck that shows that you are in your own view. You're in your attendee view, and you're no longer locked to presenter. So when presenter navigates through slides, your view is not going to change. So you can scan ahead or look back at a slide that you couldn't before. And at any point in time, you can go back and return to presenter view. And when Cameron navigates through slides now, it's going to change on my screen automatically.
Yeah. So the sort of asynchronous view, we call it internally anyways, that allows him to navigate ahead or behind. He can actually navigate to other pieces of content as well. So he could be looking at a whiteboard while I'm in my presentation in that asynchronous view. That is controllable by any presenter in the meeting, so that if you don't want to allow people to navigate ahead in your slides, you don't have to allow that. A lot of people like to control at least looking forward so that you're not giving away too much in advance. Question, you want to step over to a mic?
I think they've talked about with the Manga release, there'll be a Lync client for Windows Mobile. Is that right? Will it have all of these features, or what component will the mobile side have compared to what you have here?
Initially, the mobile client will just have IM and Presence, actually, and I believe that'll be this fall sometime. And actually, I have a T-shirt for you. There you go. Hey, look at that. What do you know? Without hitting him in the face. Yeah, it'll be available this fall, and we'll add features to that mobile client over time. So I believe in the next full release of the product, you will see more features show up, audio, video, content, screen sharing, watching screen sharing, etc. Question was, there's currently a BlackBerry client. Are we still planning to continue that? Do you remember on BlackBerry?
So BlackBerry RIM is making their client. Right now, I don't know what the plans are for moving ahead, whether they'll have all the sharing features or not, but you can expect that to be on the roadmap at some point.
But we are looking to support 3 major mobile operating systems anyways.
Cameron?
You can probably guess what those 3 are.
The BlackBerry 5.0.3 release supports Lync 2010, and that was released in the last month.
I'm sorry, say that one more
The
time.
BlackBerry BES server release 5.0.3 supports Lync 2010, so BlackBerry is supported right now.
Great, thank you. There you go. No T-shirt for you, though. You're a Microsoft guy. Even though it was useful information. Question here in the middle, or who was started there? Back there? Okay, why don't you go first?
So on the attendee side, you can go and join in the browser through Silverlight or download the client at that time.
Right.
What about creating a meeting? So if I'm away from my machine that has the Lync client, or I've got a machine that I can't do the thick install,
right.
Can I create and host a meeting somehow through a browser? Is that
Scheduling is not supported through Outlook Web Access, for instance, but we did just recently, as of I think a month ago or so, release a resource kit that you can deploy on-premise that allows you to do basic web scheduling. So you can hit a web page, schedule a meeting, gives you a URL back, then you can send that out with your own email client. T-shirt for you, if you want one. Come on up.
So after you schedule it, can you then host the meeting without the thick client or not?
It's a good question. Yeah, through the web access you could do that. Not through the attendee client, I believe, because actually, no, you can sign in with the attendee client to be authenticated as well, and once you're authenticated, then you could host that meeting. Okay. You need at least one presenter in there, though, to have the meeting continue on for some period of time.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, come on up. You ready? All right. Let's go in the middle here.
There we go.
Thanks.
So this definitely is not worthy of a T-shirt. iPhone. Hey, somebody.
Well, I actually said there's 3 mobile operating systems that were going to be supported, and iOS or iPhone OS is one of those.
So I read a blog entry that Microsoft was actually developing the client. You're not just releasing an API. Right. You're going to be the guys.
And for that question, you don't get a T-shirt. You get some bacon-flavored toothpaste. Let's see. Let's go over here. We'll take one more question after that, then we'll jump back into the presentation.
For the Outlook integration, what are the new features that I can use with only Office 2010?
What are the new features that you can use only with Office 2010? There's actually not that much that's unique to 2010. You do get richer contact card support in the Lync client, and being able to take that contact card in SharePoint or in Office applications, wherever you see a person's email name, you'll get that tag of their presence right next to it, and you can hover and get that contact card support built right into Office 2010. That's one of the main differences, I think, versus previous versions like 2007.
actually, I'll jump in.
Yeah, you want to add something there?
There's a couple of other features that are very interesting. One is that when you are in any Office document, you can go to the out space, which is the thing where you click.
That's true.
In the very top left corner of your window. And in that out space, you can see who is the author of the document or who has edited the document in the past. And you can get more information about that author from right there. Or you could just click one button and then share that application through using Lync. So it's built into the Office directly. And one more feature that I really love is the co-authoring when you are using SharePoint 2010. So if you have a document like Word or PowerPoint in SharePoint, two people can open it up at the same time and then co-edit stuff right there.
That part's not unique to Lync. You can just do that natively with Office 2010. Yeah. The other interesting feature as well in Outlook is that you can have actually in the bottom right-hand corner of Outlook 2010 a list of favorite contacts that are there, so you can quickly start an IM conversation with somebody there. Okay, let's keep going in the interest of time. Sorry?
Picture support as well. Picture support as well, yes. Outlook has picture support too.
Yeah, that's right.
So I was sharing a deck before, and quite easily I could just share a new whiteboard and annotate on it. So this is a digital whiteboard, obviously. I can write stuff on it. I can insert pictures.
So can I.
So can you. It's a collaborative surface. And as soon as Cameron inserts a picture of the Space Needle,
it took about 2-3 seconds to move that picture across. Not too bad.
His new home is right here. So yeah, your new home is going to be right there. So a lot of those live meeting features that you're very familiar with are going to appear in Lync 2010. So another cool feature that I really like in 2010 is the polling feature. So you can very quickly create a poll. If I can write sentences. And there's only one right answer there. So
let's go with Atlanta since we're here.
Cool, that's the right answer. So since I'm the presenter here and I created the poll, I'm getting all the results. And if Cameron changes the results, I'm going to see the changes here. I can end the poll at any time and export the results into a CSV file that I can later view in Excel or analyze later in Excel.
You can also save that to a PNG file too. If you want a snapshot picture of the poll results, you can do that too.
Yep. One thing that was happening throughout this conference was that there was this guy called Bill Gates, and he was attending this meeting because Cameron let him in. And that happened to be my machine. I was just here on one of these machines, and
getting a lot of flicker on your machine, actually.
Bill Gates is causing all kinds of trouble. Okay, let's. Nope. All right.
Try to drag it just to the middle a little bit.
No, that doesn't help.
Interesting.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, it looks like it's synced now. Don't make it too big. Make it smaller. It seems.
Anyhow, the Silverlight client did join the meeting. It's just a projection that you are seeing that's flickering, so I'm going to turn away from it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. The point there is just that the Silverlight client actually looks a lot like the Lync client, so the experience is very similar.
We should switch the display to something.
Yeah, thank you. Don't want to induce seizures in anybody. Question back there first. Actually, if you have a question, you can go to the mic there. We'll go to the question back there first.
Yeah, in regards to the PowerPoint presentation uploading that you showed before.
Hang on. Now mine is flickering. This is very strange. Everything worked fine previously. Looks like we're having technical difficulties, and it's not with either of our laptops. All right, let's go with the question. How about that?
The PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
The uploading that you're doing before, is it safe to assume that anyone who's a presenter can upload?
Can take over and present?
Well, can upload a file?
Oh, yeah. Anybody that's a presenter can upload a file. Yes, absolutely. That's a new PowerPoint deck. They can also take over as presenter for a presentation as well. The web client cannot upload the deck. Even if you're a presenter in the web client, you cannot upload the deck. However, if somebody else has uploaded one, you can navigate a deck.
Okay. Is there any way to limit that to prevent certain users or maybe users from a different pool?
Prevent as a presenter, anyways?
Oh, more so prevent from uploading. Because you mentioned the files get uploaded to the MCU and go from one site to another, one country to another, and you potentially may not want, certain files go across country.
Yeah, you can leave most people as an attendee and then they cannot upload anything. Or you can also demote them proactively or actively in the meeting from the roster. You can demote people to attendee so they cannot upload anything.
Okay.
And you can also, during your invite, schedule that you're the only presenter in that meeting options dialog. Anybody that's an attendee cannot upload PowerPoint decks and the like.
Okay.
Okay, on T-shirt. A question in the middle there, then we'll get back to the presentation.
Yeah, I just have a simple question with the polling. Is it, you said you could save the data to a CSV. Is that anonymous, or does it tell you who voted which way?
It does not tell. It does aggregate the results, but the person who created the poll does not know who responded to which question.
You don't get what each person's response was.
That's right. We've heard that as a feature request before, actually. People want each individual vote known. We've heard it. We haven't implemented it yet, and might end up in a future version. One T-shirt. Okay, let's keep going with the presentation. Oh, sorry, a little low.
So I think...
keep it the way it is, actually, is what he said. He doesn't want the...
Oh, yeah, you do? Okay, cool. So I think your machine is offline from the projection. So
okay,
we'll
that's fine. We'll just continue using yours.
So let's do a deep dive into the architectural call flows of the conferencing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the web conferencing architecture. So there can be one or more front-end servers that support the stuff that you were just seeing in the demo. There could be one or more conferencing servers. There is a backend SQL database server where all the conference details or the scheduled conferences are stored. The front-end server has a focus and a focus factory, and all these MCUs, IMMCU, WebMCU for data conferencing, app sharing MCU. And if you are using the Silverlight app to join the meeting, then there is web components to support that, the join launcher, the web app server. In 14, you also have the personal virtual assistant and the group virtual assistant. So when you dial into the meeting, you get prompted with IVR to enter your digits and to choose your language, etc. So that's run through the conferencing service there. And in 14 now, we are also adding an audio conferencing provider MCU to be able to connect to the ACP bridges that Lync Online needs.
And that piece is only available in Lync Online, the ACP MCU. It's a good question. No plans currently to make it available on premise. I know. The question was, when's that going to be available on premise? No plans currently is the answer.
All right, so how does the web conferencing flow works? So the scheduling client goes in and using SIP, and as part of SIP, there is C3P as well. The add-in will go in and schedule the meeting through the Focus Factory. So it will connect to the Focus Factory, and then Focus Factory on the server front end will go in and store that meeting into the SQL backend. And when the communicator or the Lync client now wants to join the meeting, it'll click on the link and we'll send the SIP messages to the Focus to find out whether this person was invited to the meeting or not, and whether there is a meeting like that he's trying to join or not. And the Focus will check that information through the SQL backend, find out the meeting URI, and then based on the meeting URI and what the organizer had scheduled, find the right set of MCUs to connect to this in conference. So we'll fetch the ACP MCU URI or app sharing MCU URI and send it over to the Lync client. And then the signaling continues to happen through the Focus, but all the conference control happens through the Focus, like mute, etc. But the RTP, the real-time media, or the PSOM for data MCU, etc., will continue to flow directly to the MCU from each of those endpoints that's joined the conference. So we use SRTP for audio, video, PSOM for data, SIP simple for IM, and RTP for application or desktop sharing. And for ACP MCU, we will use SRTP. So going into doing a little deep dive into what is required on each of the endpoints to make the conferencing happen. So there is 3 flavors of the client we just saw: the rich desktop client, the Lync attendee client, which is pretty much the rich desktop client, but only to join meetings if you are not provisioned as a user on the Lync server, and the Lync web app, which is the Silverlight app. The Lync attendee client, the one in the middle, has a user mode installed, so you don't necessarily need to be an admin on your machine to download and install that. So with one click, you can just join the meeting, even though you may not be an admin and you may not have Lync rich application running on your PC. The Lync web app requires Silverlight, which is available on more than 2/3 of the machines now, and does require an ActiveX plugin or Firefox plugin for sharing your desktop or application sharing, and both require admin install. So there's other clients as well. There is a Lync attendant client, the 4th column in there, which is the receptionist console, if you will. There is a Lync phone edition, which runs on the Polycom or Astra phones that you might have seen in the booths downstairs. There's going to be new partners that will run Lync on the IP phones moving forward. And then there is Communicator from Mac as well that does support audio, video, and you can do multi-party IM and share your desktop. So some things to call out here before I jump into the question. Lync web app, the Silverlight app, does not do audio and video, but you can dial out using an ACP to yourself, so you can join from, which I couldn't get to show because Bill Gates was causing flickering. It does require a plugin to share your desktop or program. We just talked about that. And Cameron mentioned that you can use a REST kit tool that we just released a month ago to schedule meetings through, even if you didn't have the rich client installed. So take your question now.
Yeah, can you use Lync web app not in a meeting? Like just user wants to log in, kind of like CWA.
Right. No. The question was, can you use Lync web app to sign in? No, not currently. We're working to add that back in our next major release.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Question to you. Do you have a Lync deployment today? Yes. Okay.
More than a bacon toothpick.
It's more than a T-shirt. It's actually one of the Tanjay smartphones or whatever. So.
Very nice.
Yeah. Wanted to give that somebody that actually had a Lync deployment that can use it. All right, next question.
For companies that have existing investment in external third-party MCU infrastructure, can you integrate Lync?
Yeah, you can, depending on the MCU. If you go out to the demo station on the floor, actually, there's a demo that integrates a Polycom MCU, and it's pretty slick, actually, because the Polycom MCU, you can just invite it into a meeting. It shows up in your buddy list. Invite that thing into a meeting, and then it detects everybody that's feeding in video in the roster, grabs a video feed, composites that into one HD video feed back down to every client, so you get kind of an N-up Brady Bunch style video feed coming back. So it's really slick. Stop by the floor and check it out if you haven't seen it yet. Okay, Let's keep going.
So
just get to you in just a sec if you want to wait there. That's fine.
So 4 video types that are supported in Lync 2010. The smallest one is called CIF, which is only 352 by 288 pixels, which is what you saw in the demo so far. If you do increase the size of the video and make it larger, you can make it up to full screen, obviously. And the one good thing with Lync is that in a peer-to-peer call or in a conference, we do preference negotiation. So when I connect a video call with Cameron and I'm watching him only in a small size, I'm going to only request video on the wire at that small size. So I'm not wasting bandwidth. And when I choose to increase the size of the video window on my side, when I increase the render window or make it full screen, I'm going to request higher quality video during the middle of the call, and the pixelated video will turn into much nicer, higher quality video. So CIF only requires less bandwidth, only 350 kbps. High definition video, which is supported in only peer-to-peer call in Lync 2010, requires up to 1.5 megabits per second. And it is a 720p HD that we support. Lync also supports panorama video, which is what you get when you have the Polycom CX5000, the roundtable device. This was supported in live meeting before, but now Lync supports it, And the best thing is that now you can do a room to a desktop call, a peer-to-peer call, and have the Panorama device, the Polycom CX5000 device in that peer-to-peer call. So you don't really need to make a conference going, you don't need a conference to see the other room. And Roundtable is like a stitched view of multiple cameras, but it just only takes 350 kbps bandwidth. You would notice that the HD video requires a quad-core processor. So each of those endpoints, the one that's encoding the video and the one that's decoding the video, both need a quad-core processor. And we would like to have more than 2 gigahertz so that CPU is not pegged when you are doing a quad-core video call. You had a question?
Actually, I had a couple of questions. If you go back on the clients, the PowerPoint presentation, if somebody else uploads a PowerPoint presentation, can the web app, I didn't hear if there was an answer. Could the web app people take over and present it as far as show the next slides and advance it?
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, they can.
Okay.
Yep.
Are there other Office formats that are shown in there, like Excel? Because I know my company has our board of directors meetings, and it'd be good to be able to upload Excel files to share.
So one thing I didn't get to show was that you can share a program specifically. So if you didn't want to show your entire screen to the people in the conference, you could share a particular program. It could be any process that's running on your machine, and it could be an Excel, it could be a OneNote file or whatever you may want to share. But when it comes to uploading the file to the data MCU and having it be available as handout, only PowerPoint format is supported as of now.
So any other app besides PowerPoint just uses screen sharing if you're sharing out that application. You can. There's also a handouts feature. I don't know if you saw that. There's a little paperclip icon in the main UI of a conversation. So you can send any files you want, obviously, as well, as long as they're not blocked by local client.
And then the third question I had, you saw the Roundtable cameras. My company currently has 3 of those, and I know in OCS 2007 R2, it only shows the talking member view. You don't get to see the full panorama view for the whole room. Is it in the Lync client now, and is that also shown in possibly the Mac clients? Because unfortunately, I have 2 doctors that
have Mac clients.
Yeah,
I don't believe it's shown in the Mac clients, but it is shown. You do see the full panorama view at the bottom of the Lync window.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a separate second feed.
Yep.
It shows up.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, great.
All right, let's move on. So just going into the bandwidth requirements, RT audio is what we use to negotiate wideband audio between in a peer-to-peer call between 2 clients, and it uses about 29 kbps payload. And when you add the RTCP on top of it, it's still less than 50 kbps. RT video is what we use for video, and depending on the resolution, you may only need up to 50 kbps to 250 kbps to do CIF, the smallest resolution. And we talked about HD requires 1.5 Mbps. So with that,
I'll talk through a bit here on conferencing details, specifically around on-premise audio conferencing. So audio conferencing can replace up to about 85% of your calls, just from a Gartner report. If you have audio conferencing that supports up to 250 users, as Lync does, and have deployed a gateway along with that, you can basically replace about 85% of your calls. The other 15% will be larger calls or managed calls where you really need that operator assist, and you'll still need an audio conferencing partner for those kinds of scenarios. But that's quite a bit of money savings potentially as well there. I already mentioned the gateway. You do get, with the audio conferencing, you get name recording on entry. Entry and exit announcements can be turned on. By default, they're off because they can be annoying as well. The audio conferencing does support the lobby as well, so people wait in the lobby if they're just dialing in. That can be bypassed or turned on or off as well. PIN management's pretty straightforward. On the invite, you actually have a link to go manage your PIN for any invite. You can just jump to that and manage your PIN, sign in and manage your PIN there. There's no expiration of your PIN by default as well, which is a nice thing. We already mentioned and talked a bit about recording. And then there is actually rich language support for the IVR system that's built into the on-premise audio conferencing as well. So you can have different languages for different language users as well that dial into a meeting. Per pool limits, 80,000 users per pool with max meeting size of 250, which we've said over and over again here. Hopefully you'll walk away remembering that. Limit of 6,000 simultaneous users per pool. The model that we used for that was 900 PSTN only meetings, 2,100 VoIP only meetings, and 2,400 mixed meetings where you get some people on VoIP, some people on PSTN. Question there?
Now that everything is kind of built into the Lync client or the web client, the version of the Lync client, on the live meeting on the version 12 and 13, you used to have a kind of a button that people would grab and show on a PowerPoint when they were talking about. Oh, yeah. That also exists, the pointer exists on Lync, but there's been calls where, let's say there's an executive that's going over, the annual earnings for 200 people, and usually executives are the ones talking. They're not the ones pointing the stuff. So they have moderators, but moderators are usually assistants, etc. So when they point, their name shows up underneath that. And when recording, that kind of is a little bit misleading. It's not exactly what they're used to seeing. Are you working on something maybe we can turn that off on a case-by-case basis?
To turn off the annotations and
just
and
the name
laser,
that appears underneath it. The pointer is fine, but
right now, no, but I hear your request. We could think about it for a future version.
Perfect.
You could also kind of work around it by having that other person sign in anonymously and type in the presenter's name as their name, and then they could use that
correct.
pointer.
It's just
so
it's a little bit hard to have
there.
assistants do that.
Yeah, exactly. It's some hoops to jump through.
Thank you.
Yep, in the back. You want a T-shirt, by the way, up front here? There's only one T-shirt left, actually. There you go. Okay.
On the previous slide, you were showing us bandwidth requirements. For those of us that are on 2007 R2, has that changed? Has it gotten better, or is it the same?
I didn't quite catch the question. Can you repeat?
They're on 2007 R2. Have the bandwidth requirements changed between R2 and 2010?
They haven't.
So they're the same?
Yeah. The panorama video has been added, so there are some new formats that we support now. HT is now supported in peer-to-peer right off the bat. So those have been added, but the bandwidth requirements haven't changed.
Okay, thank you.
Last T-shirt? Yes? No? Maybe? There you go. All right. Continuing on here, I'll jump to the next slide. With the online, in Lync Online Office 365, we do have ACP audio conferencing. Initially, that will be through BT, Intercall, and Premier Global, or PGI, as they're sometimes called. And those three partners, you can sign up to get integrated audio conferencing with them. You provision your end users through the tenant admin UI to have audio conferencing associated with their particular account. So that just means you give them a leader code and passcode. And once they're provisioned with that information, the Lync client automatically adapts and provides that information at sign-in, at scheduling time, et cetera. So the Lync client's pretty adaptive if that information is provisioned there in Lync Online. This does, if you remember old live meeting days, especially live meeting service, when you wanted to have your VoIP users communicate with your ACP users, you had to hack in this sort of tell the client or tell the service actually to dial into your ACP and get all these touch tone codes right to get it to dial in and get past the IVR of the ACP. And you could make it work, but it was difficult. Now we have a VoIP channel between them, so whenever there's any users on either the Lync side or the ACP side of a conversation with Lync Online, we will automatically create a VoIP bridge between the two, and everybody can hear each other automatically between the two. So it's pretty slick now and zero extra overhead in terms of setting that up. Features that are supported with the ACPs initially, dialing in from the phone, obviously. The details are in your meeting invite and in the conversation window, so you can send those around. Dialing out to self and others via the ACP, so as you join in, you can choose to dial out to yourself and have the ACP bridge call you. We'll send a command over to the ACP. They'll tell their bridge to dial that number, and your phone starts ringing. You typically have to press 1 to join into those kinds of dial-outs. Muting individuals from Lync, so from the Lync client, you can right-click an individual in the roster and mute that individual. We send the command over to the ACP, and that line on their bridge gets muted. Similarly, if somebody's muted their line via DTMF tones on the ACP side, we'll reflect that in the roster that user's muted. You can eject individuals if they're being unruly in meetings. You can also end the entire conference, which will kick everybody off the ACP at the end of the call. But you have to remember to do that from the people menu. I believe it's called end meeting, exit and end meeting actually is what it's called. And that will kick everybody off the ACP bridge. And I already talked about DTMF tones. Question in the middle?
Yeah. Is that ACP integration available to on-prem installations as well?
No, it's not available to on-prem users currently, no. The one thing that's, well, I'll talk about this on the last slide, the thing that's missing there with the ACPs that's kind of important, and it'll show up soon. So with web conferencing, once again, 250 users per meeting. Looking at some of the other workloads, though, as far as bandwidth requirements, screen sharing takes, at a minimum, 256 kilobits per second. On average, about 1,000 for a typical session, 1,000 kilobits. And then it will cap out at about 3,500 kilobits per second in a burst. If you've done a full screen refresh, things like that will take up to 3,500 kilobits per second to give you as good of refresh rates as possible with that. Supports peer-to-peer to reduce server traffic as well with the screen sharing solution. And it is controllable via in-band policy settings. So you can, as an admin, control whether users can do screen sharing. And that can be controlled not just for a user that schedules a meeting with other folks so that nobody in a session can do screen sharing. You can also set that a particular user cannot do screen sharing even if he's participating in a conference that supports screen sharing by that organizer. So in the financial industry, as an example, some users are just not allowed to share their desktop, period. So we support that as well. PowerPoint decks, minimum 20 kilobits per second. This is just for that little bit of signaling that goes on as you're switching slides. Average might be 200 kilobits per second, and a max in a burst when that PowerPoint is first getting loaded up might be 500 kilobits per second. That's the cap that we put on it. The PowerPoint deck, as that process happens, we actually convert the PowerPoint deck to 2003 and to DHTML formats. And the DHTML format is actually used and converted a little bit further so that it can be displayed in the web browser, the Silverlight-based web browser solution. So there's a lot of conversion that's actually going on in the background, and all those pieces are getting uploaded to the server as you go upload a slide deck. The nice thing, as Ankit mentioned earlier, we do the first 5 slides first, so you can start your presentation right away. Whiteboard and PowerPoint presentations and annotations on those, same bandwidth requirements. That applies to the PSOM channel as what the data collab channel, all those features, the 2200 and 500K. Manageability, as I've hinted, there's a lot of controls available. If you go up to TechNet, you can search for client policies and client conferencing policies that are available. And there's a heck of a lot you can control there about what that experience is going to be like for your end users. You can disable you can disable web conferencing completely. You've got a lot of control over what your end users have in terms of feature set. So go up there and take a look. I'm not going to present long lists of policies that are available here. It's just unruly, I guess. Interesting things here is just that in 2007 we used group policy objects. And those are managed separately by admins and pushed down to clients. In 2010, we've moved to in-band provisioning for nearly everything. There are a few policies that still apply before sign-in, but once you've signed into a client, we pull down all of your policies, and those policies effectively roam with you. So if you sign in from your desktop workstation, great. If you sign in from home, you still have the same policies. GPOs don't work that way. So big improvement here in terms of pushing more things into in-band provisioning at sign-in time. Troubleshooting, I'll turn it back over to Ankit. I think we have one more changeover between the two of us.
So things do go wrong during conferences. One thing we have improved on is in Lync 2010, when the network or the device or the CPU that you're using, the machine that you're using, is outside of the operational range that we would like, then we would throw a network quality notification or a device quality notification to the user to let them know that, hey, Lync is going to misbehave or is misbehaving because the hotel network that you are on has a very poor network and you may want to tether yourself to a wired connection. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in the next couple of slides. You can, as a user, turn on logging on your client and share your logs with somebody if things go wrong. Those logs are stored in the user profile tracing directory. The best thing is that with in-band settings now, the admins can force users, one or more users, to, and then have their logging turn on by default. Users can override that setting. If the setting has been provided, users can turn it off manually, the logs. There is also a new feature in Lync, which is called collect logs. So the scenario here would be that a particular user is having a lot of trouble with joining meetings or in the middle of a meeting with audio quality or video quality. Instead of second guessing what's going on, the admin could turn on the collect logs feature for that one particular user. And when that user happens to have that problem again, they will see a collect logs button on their main UI and in each conversation window, and they can just click on that button, and last 30 seconds of their call quality and etc. All that information will be stored on their disk, and they can share that information with the network admin, who can use tools like Snooper or RTCmon or things like that to figure out what may have gone wrong. This is new to Lync 2010. That didn't exist in Lync 2010.
I'll also add that Support Services has, Microsoft Support Services has a web page that you can upload logs to. They'll auto-analyze those logs on that web page and spit you back some recommendations about what types of things you might need to do to improve the situation. It's not fully robust yet, but it will be grown over time as different situations, different errors come up. A question at the mic, actually, first. Sorry. Step up to the mic for a couple other folks that had questions here, too.
Yeah, something that actually goes back to the policies, the in-band policies. Can you talk about policies that apply not just to the user, but also are conditioned by perhaps what subnet they're connecting from? So to give you an example, I've got network segments where I don't want people traversing using video. But if they take their laptop to another location where there's better bandwidth, right, I'll give them that capability. Is Microsoft doing anything to support those nuances?
Currently, no, not that I'm aware of. It's just per user. Good question, though. Sorry, no more T-shirts left. That's a great question, but I have a paper bag up here.
In-band policies do apply to per user or per pool or globally, but there is no way to say for this user when they're in that location, apply right, that policy, but when they move about, right, apply a different policy.
You can do different things too. Yeah, control.
So for bandwidth management, you could use a call admission control and then do something interesting with that.
Question?
What's the URL for that upload site?
The upload site. Oh,
you were talking about with the
support
logs,
services site?
Support services site, yes.
Yeah, I don't know what the URL is. Sorry, I'd have to look it up, or you can contact your support rep. Yeah. Okay.
One more thing before I move on to the next slide is that admins have full control over when that collect logs button appears on the user's endpoint. So when the issue is fixed or resolved, admins can turn it off, so users won't see that button anymore on their machine. There was a talk earlier in the day about called CDR and reporting on server. If you missed that, I would encourage you to look at the slides for that. So going back to the call quality notifications that you see in Lync, one of my favorite ones is I often take my laptop to a conference room, and even if I'm not the presenter, and I would join the meeting just so that I could do that async navigation through the slide deck while the presenter is going, so I can go forward and backward and look at the slides that the presenter hasn't gone through. But occasionally what happens is when I do that, I join audio alongside the presenter, and now there are two machines in the same room that have joined with mic and speaker, and there is echo all over the place. So in Communicator 2007 R2, there wasn't anything that we did for that. Now, when there are two machines in the same room that try to join the same conference, we detect that condition, and we would let the user know that, hey, you are joining a meeting, or you've just joined a meeting where there's another participant in the same room, and you may want to mute yourself. And with one click, you can prevent that echo. There's plenty of other conditions that we try to figure out and then provide user an actionable tooltip or a help with. There is for network, we look at the jitter, packet loss, concealed packet ratio, the round trip time, and when we are operating outside of the required range, then we would, in the form of bars, we will let the user know that, hey, you have poor network bars, and that you need to do something. And when you click on that, you would see more details on what to do with it. If your machine is pegged and your CPU is not able to encode the right amount of packets that are required to do a good quality audio call, we would let you know. Similarly, for audio, we talked about howling. We detect a bunch of other things. So for example, when your speaker is buffered up and it's no longer rendering the audio, even though we are sending packets to it, we would let you know that your speaker is not working, and what can you do? Maybe you can switch your device through the audio device switcher within the conversation window without losing your call. So there's a bunch of things we detect, and a lot goes on here.
Grab the deck if you want the full details, and you can review that list.
Question?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, at what point do we cross into enterprise Cal? Like, for example, you can do multi-party chat, still standard Cal?
Multi-party chat, I believe, is standard Cal, but I believe anything with voice, you go to the enterprise Cal. A lot of the voice details, you go to the enterprise Cal. Voice, video, all the web conferencing stuff is enterprise Cal.
So single party voice, standard Cal, multi-party voice, enterprise?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, we're not marketing geniuses.
Yeah. Right. There's a voice cal on top of the on top of the conferencing cal. Yeah.
Yeah. Second to last slide, I believe. We're doing good on time. Actually, we'll have some time for Q&A here too.
All right. So we talked a little bit about the CDR and reporting in the morning. Essentially, what goes on is that if you have an error, let's say you try to join a meeting and it failed, or you tried to send an IM to somebody and it bounced back, then through SIP, there's a 4xx, 5xx, or 6xx message sent over on the wire. And on that message or on that buy message, we will append a MS diagnostic code that is clearly categorized as a expected error or a unexpected error. And that information is stored in, that's available to the admin through the reporting tools that Arish, I believe, spoke about in the morning. So there's a whole lot more on CDR and the call detail records and reporting for admins that you can refer to in the EXL 318 slide deck. Lync in Office 365. Cameron?
Yeah, on this slide, I'm not going to talk through every detail on this slide. However, it just talks about some of the core differences between Lync on-premise and Lync online. So sign-ins and org ID versus your corp credentials, or if you want custom Lync credentials to sign in, you can do that too on-premise. Audio conferencing we talked about soft phone. There's no device integration in Lync online, which is actually tied to a lot of the soft phone features anyways. Skill search with SharePoint Online is just a feature we have not been able to enable yet in the online O365 scenario, so that's just not working yet. Recording right now is currently disabled in Lync Online, primarily because we don't have an admin control yet for admins to turn it on and off. And we need that to be able to expose the feature. It'll get added in the next, hopefully, 3 to 6 months. Group chat's not available. Auth join in attendee and web app is not available either, so you're always just signing in anonymously if you're using the web app in Lync Online. Muting all attendees is the feature I hinted at earlier. It's a useful feature in audio conferences to quiet everybody down, or if there's several people typing or making noise on the call, you can mute everybody except yourself. We're going to add that back in by the fall timeframe for ACPs too when you're online. Let's see, the attendant client, which is for receptionists, is not supported in Lync Online. Anything else interesting there? The admin UI is a bit different, and there's no PowerShell support with Lync Online. The admin UI is actually quite limited in Lync Online currently. That will grow over time. The intention is that we can continue adding features based on sort of a prioritization of what admins really need there. We will open it up for Q&A in just a second as I talk about our top 5 takeaways. First off, it is a true unified client. It's the kitchen sink of clients. It does everything you need for audio conferencing, web conferencing, voice, video. you name it. It's all there. It's all easy to use as well. Everything's a click or two away to get at most of your features that you need within a meeting. I improved Meeting Join. Meeting Join is super easy. It's that simple URL to click and join a meeting. PSTN dial in and dial out for conferencing. We are a full-blown conferencing, audio conferencing application on premise. You can replace most of your PBX use. You can replace most of your ACP use as well in an on-premise deployment. Pretty slick. Call quality checks and diagnostics. We just got done talking through those slides, so go back and review those slides. There's also docs available online for those. And then Office 365 is available in beta now. Up until, I think, a week ago, there was sort of some throttling put on to new users. You had to receive an invite. That's open now, so anybody can just go up to Lync Online, O365, and sign up there and use it today in beta, production in June. Now we can truly go to Q&A in the back there, yeah.
Hey, thanks. From what I've read, they say that if you want to virtualize Lync, you can pretty much cut the specs in half. So can you confirm that if you are using virtualization, say on front-end servers, that the 250 maximum goes to 125?
It's a good question. Are there any server guys in here from Lync? You don't know? I'm looking back at Robert back there. Anybody else? No. It's a good question. We could take it offline with you, though. His question was if you use virtualization on the back end for your front ends, if you use virtualization for each front end, do you pretty much cut the specs in half? Like, is your limit now 125 users instead of 250? I would expect you'd see some slowdown. I don't know what the rule is there, if it's 2 to 1 or 1. Per conference? Yeah, I just don't know the answer to that, unfortunately. But if you stop by the booth as well, there's plenty of server guys over there that might be able to pick up that question for you. Question in the middle?
I just want to verify, so I've been to a whole bunch of Office 365 sessions and down at the booth, and I've asked this question like 7 times, and you're the first person to say that it's production in June. Is that a fact?
That's my understanding of it.
Really? Okay. Thank you.
Now it's recording.
You learned something new. Question in the back over there.
We have some large live meetings. What's the maximum I can have in a Lync meeting if everybody has the attendee client?
Yeah. 250 is the max. That's, some people have said they've gone beyond that, and if you're not using things like application sharing or screen sharing, you probably go beyond that somewhat safely, but that's the most that we support officially.
So are you going to expand it? Because I have live meetings now with 300 plus.
Yeah, we'd like to expand that. I think as machine specs get better, it will naturally expand as well. But for right now, that's all we're supporting. Yeah. Middle?
One of the things that I saw in the slides and you showed was you could potentially replace your ACPs that we have now with using Lync. I saw in there the PSTN connection, and it said something about a gateway. Are you talking like an audio code gateway to set up this, like a SIP trunk between the Lync and your PSTN network?
Yeah, exactly. It's a local gateway that you can deploy. You can also actually sort of outsource that to a SIP trunking vendor, and they can just give you a connection in for your PSTN ingress, egress, middle back.
Is there any support for call centers in Lync?
Call centers. We do support response groups as an example. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, we do have a service called Response Group Service that supports basic hunt group type of functionality. So you can set up a set of users and assign them a SIP URI. And when people make calls to that SIP URI, depending on the routing rules that you have configured for that particular attendant, it may contact one or more agents in a round-robin fashion or serially. And you can do some basic hunt group type functionality. We don't support full-blown contact centers, so you won't find things like a supervisor feature or a bargain feature or things like that. But basic contact group, basic hunt group support is there with the response group service.
Anything on the roadmap working with third-party vendors integrating with Lync?
Not that I know of.
Not that I'm aware of either, no. As folks are filing out, thank you for attending actually as well. We appreciate all the good questions and feedback. And feel free to grab us in the hallway outside afterwards too. Yeah, question in the back there.
Is there a programmatic access or an API access to the chats and other information?
To the which information?
Like when you are in a chat and you want to record all that, right? And bring it into a line of business application.
Yeah, there is an SDK available for the client that you can effectively write your own client application almost with it, and then you could do whatever you like with that too. Pretty rich feature support in the SDK, and there's a couple sessions as well. You might want to review on that, but there is a client SDK available, yes.
Yeah, there was a session on that on Tuesday morning from Marcelo, so I would encourage looking at the slides for that. I believe he showed a conversation translator application in that meeting.
Yeah. Thank you. Up front over here.
You mentioned Polycom a couple times. Is there good integration between this and any of the video conferencing people, apart from, so for example, telepresence? So you say there's a bunch of people that are remote that you want to bring into a higher end telepresence sort of thing that are Lync clients, and you want those two to work well together. I mean, I gather Polycom probably does it. I'm not 100% sure. Is that something you guys have any experience with?
Yeah, there is a team that works on that kind of integration, and I think Polycom is just a good first example of that. Typically, that partner needs to support RT video to send into the AVMCU.
Okay.
If that's enabled, then effectively you can invite that thing into the conference.
Yeah, because oftentimes the meetings are getting richer and richer, and there's the line starting to blur there between those two, and they tend to be two separate tools now, and people are going to say, well, why do I have to use somebody else's video conferencing client and sharing thing? It's going to get confusing.
Yeah.
If I can use one, it's easier, right?
Yeah, there's a team that we have dedicated to working with partners on deeper integration there, absolutely.
It's a great segue into the next breakout session from Francois.
Yeah, I think he's going to be here in this room, actually. Francois will have a big interop session, so question over here.
Yeah, can you share any video applications within the program or have embedded videos within PowerPoint?
No, the videos within PowerPoint actually get stripped on import, so we strip those out, unfortunately. And that's primarily because we can't synchronize the playback across all the clients very easily. And currently we do not support video as content either. That is a live meeting feature that was there. We're working on that too.
Thanks.
Okay. You have a question back there? No, it looks like that's it for questions. We appreciate your time. Thank you for coming out. Thank you. Don't forget to